I mean, I keep forgetting.
Cable 10, Aurora, Illinois Community Access Channel.
Let's get weird, buddy. Let's get weird. Guys. Where are we?
Well, if there's a bright center to the universe, you're on the planet that it's farthest from.
Welcome to the
Check out our
Review. Enjoy your stay.
There, I still got to do some more tweaking. I saw like a bit of a shadow and an echo. Whatever. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. This is Rob here at Smirking Gun, and we're back talking The Last of Us Season 2. I keep wanting to say The Last of Us Part 2 because that's to me what it is. I think, but TV rules. Season 2, Episode 2, Through the Valley.
If it was British, it'd be Series 2. So, we can call it whatever we want. But it's
Happy
definitely
420,
awesome.
Yeah. Happy 420, baby Jesus. I'm just glad now that it's over. I'm glad that I was wrong. That I thought maybe he won't die until episode 3 or 4. But I'm glad that we've gotten it.
Yeah.
I'm glad that it's over, and that we can focus on the rest of what's going to happen on this show, which this episode was phenomenal. I'm just going to say it right off the bat. As upset as how many people are out there right now that had no idea this was coming, I'm glad that we ripped the bandage off with a vengeance.
Indeed.
We get right to it. But how did you feel about the episode?
Honestly, I've got to give it to them is they dove right in and took care of it off the bat. You're right. I was curious how they're going to do it. It's like, you got Pedro Pascal, man. You can't just get rid of him straight away. But they did. And obviously there'll be flashbacks and stuff. But I think, to me, it's a bold choice. One, I don't understand that's how it happens in the game. Is it's a very quick kind of thing. But two, to me, as an audience, as a fresh audience member, it gives a promise of so much more to come, because what we just saw was most of what's been in like the previews and trailers and things like that. The awesome big fight, you got the worry of what was going to happen with Joel, but it all kind of got knocked off. So now it's like, I'm excited what they're going to be. I could see in Ellie's eyes, it's like, oh, it's over for Abby. She's going to hunt her down to the end of the earth. And that's where we're going. And that's going to lead us to, I'm assuming, Seattle, since that was the name that was dropped. And it's like, okay, I've got a new life and feel, a new purpose. So I'm really excited. But I thought they knocked this one out of the park. This was, to me, what we wanted the White Walkers to be.
Okay, yeah. I was saying I told Bill, like, eat your heart out, Game of Thrones. I even said same thing. Walking Dead, what's that? Like, when you have an avalanche of clickers infected charging down the mountain, this is why I like when I say this, like certain shows like Deadly Class should have been on HBO. Like, this is where these big tentpole things that they spend the money on. When you want it to look a certain way and feel a certain way, and then they go bigger. They go so much bigger. And before I get too in the weeds about this, I do want to bring up at the top the Last of Us podcast that they do.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to it a couple of days ago, hosted by Troy Baker, as always. Nice. It's the official one. It's Neil Druckmann. It's Craig, the writer, producer, director of a lot of this stuff. And I really appreciated that they also talked about Jackson as a character, which is what I was talking about. Like, Jackson in this is so much more fleshed out. And that's what we still get here in this episode, is more fleshed out, more things that weren't in the game. And it gives more context to just about everything, including as fleshing things out, like the scene with them in the mansion, and she leaves and they say, we're going to try to talk her out of this. That's not in the game.
Hmm.
She goes off. She brings back Joel. Shit happens. They don't talk about how they're not into this. They're the ones that are going to die. Like
Sure.
he sees it. They see it. They see a city. They go, we're going to go to war against a city for her thing. There was some changes to Abby's dream, which I really like how they went right at that. Abby, like in the game, going down that hallway, that last hallway in the game, whether you're Joel, like they've done it from different perspectives. You've seen Ellie go down that hallway. Joel literally went down that hallway to do what he does. Somebody's always going down that hallway in Salt Lake. Except in this version, she sees herself, a different version of herself that's not in the game. And I like that a lot because it's her telling her, don't do this. Don't go there. And a different, like, I like Caitlin's performance so much already because that's literally a different version of her. But it even kind of looks a little different in some ways. Of this is no good. You know what you're gonna see. This is this recurring thing that she has, and obviously this dream is trying to tell her.
Turn
one
back.
of the themes of the
Pull
show
back.
is, and what will be a recurring thing is going towards darkness instead of the light. Thinking only about the horribleness of someone's death rather than all the memories that you have of them, not, like remembering them the way that they were, not how they ended. And we get to see that Abby doesn't need to look like a tank to be tough.
Sure.
And a lot of her stuff does play out the same way. Other things also that are different. Joel and Dina going off together is not from the game. That was Joel and Tommy that go off and are discovered by Abby. But I do like the extra element of danger because we had to have Tommy at Jackson for the big attack, which we'll talk about in a minute. And so Ellie is off with Dina in the game, not Jesse. They also don't stop to where they find the weed. That also
I was laughing about last week's.
Yeah, that they find Eugene's weed. It's in a 7-Eleven. It's not in because in the game you find it's underneath a whole bunch of stuff. It's very secret. You have to turn on lights or turn off lights to see lights under the floorboards that lead them to his weed den. But we get confirmation about Eugene and the pot. And I'm sorry, I'm rambling. I'm just trying to get out of the way all the differences and fleshed out parts.
Sure.
But I think that's about it. And of course, the big attack does not happen at all in the game. But other than that, so much about this is impressive and dramatic. And even though it's there's kind of the attack at Jackson and the stuff with Ellie, Joel, and Abby. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
But boy, oh boy, it still feels jam-packed.
I mean, there's that little bit of setup in that kind of midpoint with the weed in Eugene's place, which I thought was nice, and they do at least there relate the story that it seemed that Eugene got bit or infected or whatever, and Joel had to be the one to put him down, which is something that we see kind of in the whole wrap-up sequence of people showing that they got bit and taking the gun and so on, because that's just the way that it is. Which just to me is oh, that's just the cold reality of this world. It's not a maliciousness or anything like that. It's just the way that things are. And to me, and I also love how they kind of get that initial setup where we see the complicated nature of Ellie and Joel's relationship as she tries to explain it to Jesse. It's in a way, it is kind of like a parent-child relationship. It's look, Yeah, we got stuff. It's complicated, but he's him and I'm me and we're us, and that's just the way that it is. And you guys shouldn't worry about it. It's just they just do their thing. One day they're going to be at each other's throats. The next day it's going to be, okay, well, you made the wrong move, but I appreciate you making a move to help. Even though obviously, I think what we'll find out is that that secret already got let loose, and that's been part of the recent tiff between Joel and Ellie. It was something I was expecting to see now and thought that it would happen before his death, or maybe kind of in that context, as Abby reveals it right there and they have their big thing. I like how they do it here because it gives a little bit more breadth for storytelling, and it keeps the focus on current Ellie on target as opposed to the confliction. She's already dealt with all of that. We'll just see how that played itself out, I think.
Yeah, there's missing scenes clearly, and the game then doles them out in ways and in moments that are like, this needs to be told now for this to mean something more.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like, because in the game again, she doesn't tell anybody that they're fine. She tells, like, at all. But so I like that she tells people, you guys can keep talking, but we are Ellie and Joel. We're always going to be Ellie and Joel. She doesn't give specifics on how they work things out, because again, they want to have that moment
Sure.
play out somewhere else. And I just love Jesse as a character.
Oh God, yeah, the playful banter and back and forth and screw. It's like that feels so real. That's what people do.
Yeah, he's a good dude in the game. He's a good dude in this. I like that he's messing with her. He could be that guy, and he messes with her to make her think he's that guy, and he's just not. He is there for her. And it's definitely the ideal like breakup guy. Like, he handles this breakup and then her dating him, and even though he says, like, I'm sure that there is a part of him that means what he says when he's like, but it is pretty messed up that you guys are already together.
Sure. But also in the apocalypse, do you have time for unnecessary drama?
Yeah.
It's
Jesse's
kind of like,
he's young, he's good looking, he is not going to be alone for long in his mind, right? Like,
sure.
But we get like the whole, I want to talk about the attack separately. So I guess what we need to talk about then is like Abby going out on her own to find this spot where she ends up spotting Joel and Dina. I
Sure.
really like this moment a lot. I not just because it's cold and everything, but just the way that they shot all this is gorgeous, and
Oh yeah.
you feel the cold. You really feel it out there. And boy, oh boy, is Caitlin Dever out there red faced and freezing her ass off. And when she's Abby in the game and she's huge, you don't really get that she feels any of it, because she's just not just because she's raging out.
Mm-hmm.
She's, when she's bulked up and parked up and ready for this. She's not ready for this. She thinks she is, right? Her hate, her consuming hate is what's driving her. But she doesn't know what she's doing. And I mean, she's the reason why she's part of the reason why there's an attack on the place in the first place. Yes, there are the pipes, but what she does is she calls down the White Walkers, and I really like this sequence. In the game, she just kind of fights a few clickers and walkers or infected. To get it's mostly a tutorial for learning how to play as Abby.
Sure.
There's no fight in Jackson, like I said, in the game. So in this, for her to be like kind of the inciting moment of like, almost as I don't know if it's a metaphor or what, but like she's bringing it to Jackson. Like,
well, I mean, if you want to go for metaphor, it's an avalanche.
Yeah.
She's up at top and she falls and she starts that tumble down the mountain into the walkers, which opens them, which sends them down, which goes on until the guy's clearing out the pipes and just hits the thing that just stimulates to let them know there's a new target, which was so cool as it's coming down and it just starts like melding together and heading in a new direction. And from that point, it's just boom, but a boom, but a boom,
Yeah.
everything rolls forward. So yeah, you know, you're right. The cinematography is amazing, and I will get it that the setup is a little hyper convenient that she's out there just as Joel's on patrol and just happens to fall into the thing that just starts the thing. Fine, I will give that up
Yeah.
because
So did I. I thought the same thing.
they do it so well because yeah, once it starts, there is no stopping this episode at all until the end.
Yeah. It's all just steamrolling ahead. Like
Mhm.
but I love so much of just standing there looking and realizing as we are finding out as Abby's finding out how they decide to show us. It's like, okay, she's fine. Oh, wait. Okay. Are these there's people under here. Oh, wait. There's a half-buried clicker. Oh, wait. As the tension keeps building as it starts to move a little bit. And then the shift as they start to sink. It's just so well done. And then it just
Well, and they'd
becomes
given us that sort of preparation with the story before that it happened. So it's like, as we're seeing it, we're like, oh God, no, oh God, no, oh God, it's yeah.
and it just goes. And this is, I think, where we should shift then to the attack on Jackson. And first, like I guess it would be the preparation. I Gabriel Luna, right? That's his name.
Gabriel Luna, oh yeah,
Yeah. Um,
Robbie himself.
and Ratina Wesley, I remembered her name this time, who played Tara on True Blood as Maria, telling everybody how to handle things. I was cool about the rooftops. It's like, yeah, definitely be on the rooftops. Basements, that's what Tyrion Lannister decided told everybody to go into the basements of Winterfell when the White
Yeah, the
Walkers
Crips was
attacked.
not a good idea in that sense. You're right.
Yeah, basements. I was like, what? What? You're gonna leave people in the? There's nowhere to go. At least you're on a rooftop. If you have to, you can say fuck it and jump off and run. But I also envisioned. I don't know what I envisioned. I guess I was thinking houses where it'd just be, oh, I'm on my roof of my house. But no, there's are all buildings with access to the rooftops that it gets when it goes, it goes. But like it felt like I think Bill was saying while we were watching this, it very felt Lord of the Rings, like that
Oh yeah, a
everything
little
coming.
Helm's Deep going on there
Yeah,
for
Helm's
sure.
Deep, or like again the White Walkers coming for Winterfell. Except guess what? It's well lit. First off, we can actually see the White Walkers coming, but it did feel like a siege. It felt like like these people are prepared. That's the other thing. Like even Abby and them noticed that how Jackson is.
Mm-hmm.
These aren't. This is not a place built by idiots. There's veterans down there. These are well trained people, and they have everything pretty much squared away except who plans for the avalanche of infected to come at you. Even though we also talked about this, maybe your wall shouldn't be made of wood.
Yeah, I was thinking
Maybe put
that.
some metal sheeting or something, some aluminum siding. I don't know what works. I don't know what keeps fire out well, but I would
You guys
think,
coat that with something special
yeah,
there because your
yeah,
plan seems to be fire.
yeah. Well, maybe that now when they rebuild, they'll be like, okay, we got to get some metal sheeting. Let's go out and like strip all these like RVs that are out there and just put siding all over our walls. But that didn't matter. It didn't last long enough. But those
Mhm.
explosions and everything just so cool. So cool. This really needed. I mean, and also it's like kind of a distraction because Jackson's fighting for its life. The other characters are fighting for their lives or later, somewhere else. There's conflict everywhere, but somewhere like everything could fall here.
Mhm.
It could be that Ellie and Jesse and Dina would have nowhere to go to, but I think it's it was a smart decision to switch Tommy and Dina, because Tommy kind of has plot armor,
Right.
because at least I knew this, like that going into this, he's going to play a big role in getting revenge, and can't have that if he dies here. So have the guy with military experience leading the attack, while you have Dina, who is close to Joel, and if something were to happen to her,
Right. He's
see,
still hyper protective of this
yeah,
person like he
if
would
it
be
was
with
him
Joel.
and Tommy in the situation,
Mhm.
I don't know. Like, I don't know if Joel wouldn't try to turn the tables on them, and we'll get to that in a second.
Sure, sure.
Um,
Well,
but
the
the
one thing that they
full-on
are
attack.
able
Go
I was
ahead.
going to say the one thing they were able to do with this, which from what you're intimating is not something that's involved in with the game, is to again expand upon that. Hey, we're doing a big budget HBO show. People are going to want to see some walkers. They're going to want to see some clickers. Let's give them a nice scene again that gives the action, gives a great draw for the season, and is a way to. What I really liked about how they did that is it keeps the clickers and the horde as a still constant threat, but now throughout this we can keep introducing new, new characters, new specialty, clicker modes, which I'm sure, which I know is always something that you would encounter at stages in the game and so on. Here's the next level of the thing, and here's the one that can do this stuff, and this one explodes, and this one's tough, and this one. So it's a way to kind of like introduce that, keep that flavor of the game, and do something big that will impress both audiences.
Yeah. The flamethrower squad. It would be really tough to stand there knowing that these things are coming at, like when you just see them charging at you. I love that half those guys ran,
Yeah.
because you got to have some balls to be standing there like that, and knowing you're probably not going to survive this. But I mean, once it really goes, now they see the bloater
Mm-hmm.
come and attack, and even though I kind of feel like the bloater has a little bit too much, I don't know, personality almost. Like it's a like it doesn't quite act like the rest of them, which is just mindless fungus. Like I was thinking about this and I didn't bring it up while we were watching it, but like basically these human beings have become killer plants. Like
Right.
they don't have anything to stop them from like running full tilt into walls at, like there's no self-preservation. It is just propagate, spread the fungus any means necessary. The intensity of that
Mm-hmm.
reminds me of like the rage virus from 28 Days Later, where it's just boom, there's nothing in there but the drive to keep spreading this thing. And I was a little concerned at how, like, I thought Maria was gonna have to save Tommy there at the end.
Right.
They really made you think that, oh, she's just gonna walk up and blast him with a shotgun. But I said while we were watching, I was like, the flamethrower does work. You just have to really, really, really keep pressing it on. And boy, did they really press it on, because it literally dies just right in front of him, just smolders up. Like I was like, I'm so glad that he wasn't saved by someone else, that it literally was game, like it was the
Yeah.
same as the game.
If you're gonna put them in a corner like that, you've got to kind of commit all the way. I
Like,
agree.
ah! We don't see enough flamethrowers and things. I think the last time I saw a flamethrower used was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and they really know how to use a flamethrower in that movie.
Sure.
I tried to think about this, about Joel deciding to go with Abby. Bill put it in a nice way that, like, the promise of reinforcements is what drove him to continue on up that mountain, because otherwise I don't think Joel stays with Abby and says, screw this, I'm going. Because
Right.
it's Tommy. He doesn't know that Ellie's looking for him. He doesn't know any of this stuff. And I also like how when, again, Dina in all of this, she immediately starts spotting things that just don't add up. Like when she sees these people, Joel is just focused on getting back.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, she's the one who spots the WLF. She's the one who like looks around, and then it's over. And unlike in the game where it just turns on Joel immediately, there is no take care of them. There is no niceties all of a sudden. She, if I had a complaint, it is the supervillain monologue.
Sure.
Because we don't see that in the game. She blasts him with the shotgun. Okay, accurate. But then when she gets close and everything, and they put Dina to sleep, and I just kept thinking, Joel, like I'm like Ellie. I'm like, Joel, you have the perfect opportunity to turn the tables on them. He could grab her and just have her and say, you let us go. Those people would probably back down.
Yeah.
They could say they're going to shoot Dina, but would they? They were already planning on letting them go.
There may have been one, but yeah, they pretty much set up, and I think very well, that it's Abby who is the one committed to this, really.
But Joel still, I knew logically Joel still wouldn't put Dina in danger. And maybe part of him was like kind of calm because he knew that this was it for him.
Mm-hmm.
Again, they don't give the confession. He doesn't give a confession in the game. In this, he does. And I like that. I like that he admits to everything. And then we get to it. And they actually show a lot more in this than they did in the game, surprisingly. What we see is the after effects. And the way it looks in the game is pretty close to how it looks in this. Just the makeup and everything on Pedro, how they made him just that beat up is amazing. And Ellie finding them it's all really accurate. The fact that she almost, kills one of them, the fighting, all of that's here. And even the death is a little different. In the death, she keeps going with the golf club, and instead she takes the part of it and stabs him right in the neck, and then it's over. And they just leave. Now again, there is a bit of a, you don't have a story if they kill Ellie.
Here. Of course.
But I mean, it is also pretty I don't want to teach people how to be better killers, but I mean, letting someone who tells you, I'm going to kill all of you, live is, I don't know. But it's the same in the game where I'm like, there's a moment where they're like, we let you live, and she's like, you probably shouldn't have. Like,
well, but it's that type of commitment thing, and I think that's one reason of not having Ellie be a giant bulked up version is it keeps Abby, thank you. It keeps Abby and Ellie as comparatives. They are the same person in many ways, and especially after this, it's like, he killed my dad. Well, then you killed my dad. So, we're going after, and that way you don't have that giant kind of physical thing. I think that this way they can do a little bit more of a one-on-one type kind of stuff. That these are kind of like two versions of any character that could have just evolved out of this. We kind of went over it real quick with the with Abby triggering the horde, but I did want to give one brief little moment to sneaking past the fence as it caves in. That was terrifying. And it's just one of those where I'm like, I could see that move in the game, that whole sequence, whether it's there or not,
It's
it
there.
feels very much like that. And you're right, how dedicated they are when the one's like pushing his hand through the fence. The chain link and just ripping through it was just it's
Yeah.
so terrifying.
Yeah,
Um,
it's definitely in the game, and in a lot of ways better here.
mhm.
It's different, of course, because I mean, if you're playing it on a big TV, headset on, it's the dark or whatever, you feel it. You almost feel like you're her and you could die. Like some
Oh,
part
sure.
of you is almost like, if she dies in real life, do I die? Because it feels like I'm gonna die when
Yeah,
you're
no, no,
watching
no.
it.
It felt
Um,
very much like that. So I mean, they've
but they extend it.
and it keeps that visceral thing again. I feel like I am playing a game the way that it's shot. I mean, I'm also a gamer, so I can recognize sequences and stuff like that. But it's such a brilliant way of kind of combining the two mediums so very effectively. Um,
Oh, yeah.
and yeah, I love the Joel bit because one, again, they commit to it, they go quick. He doesn't really say anything. I mean, he admits he's like, yeah, it was in Salt Lake. But outside of that, he doesn't say anything until it's like, God damn, shut up and just go on with it. It's like, I'm so sick of your super villain monologue telling me all this stories and stuff like that. Um, I kind of appreciated that. Uh, but as for letting Ellie live, I mean, I think they did a good job in establishing that most of those people kind of don't even want to be there. They're doing it because they're their group and they've committed to each other and this is the thing, and she's obviously the leader, but none of the other characters want to hurt anyone else. So
Except for
they're,
maybe Manny.
yeah, the one guy that kicks her at the end. Yeah, I mean, that's the one who I was just like, oh well, he might cross the line and do something. But on the other hand, it's like, you can't get yourself tied up with psychos because they will drag you down and they're going to be more committed than you are, and thus you're going to be the first ones to die. You know, you're going to be sacrificed to their psychosis. So it's, I don't know, I think they do a great job of giving believable stuff but also knowing what the fatal flaw is, what the line that you cross that makes you the villain versus the hero, even though those terms don't really apply in a world like this.
Well, I think that I'm glad that you said that, because I wanted to bring up a little more about her monologue, which is, I mean, first off, I mean, she's had this planned, right?
Yeah,
She's A lot of this stuff is what she's dreamed of saying to the guy, so she's going to get it out. But one of the things that she says, I mean, forget that it's her dad or whatever, right? He was a doctor. And even in the game, right? When you go in there, you could shoot everybody in that room, I think, in the game. You could probably, I think you could shoot the nurses, everything. But killing the doctor, whether it was her dad or not, felt like all those other people are soldiers. He might have killed 18 soldiers, but they were 18 trained individuals ready to go and live and die. They're fireflies.
sure.
A lot of people consider them terrorists, as it is. So they kind of are in for a penny, in for a pound. They're there to defend their ideals. He's there to defend what he wants. But the doctor is where, like, if you're gonna say there were morally, this is all really bad.
Sure.
But the doctor, it's kind of like that to me is where, like, he becomes the full villain. He did not have to kill that guy.
Well, I don't know. I will throw out an actual little argument because this was something that she puts so much about killing unarmed things. I'm like, but he wasn't unarmed. He pulled a scalpel and stepped up with him and said, I won't let you take her. And Joel responded as someone does when they come up. I don't, he didn't then threaten the nurses, I don't think that he would have killed the doctor if the doctor didn't go after him.
I guess I mean,
I mean, we don't know.
Narratively, the doctor has to die to have this second game happen. But I
Sure.
mean, could have shot him in the leg. Could have just he could have just knocked the knife out of his hand, or maybe it's like you could say, there's no time. There's no
Well,
time
no,
to argue.
and honestly,
Boom, boom, boom.
watching it, I thought the same way that Joel acted. Like, he's like, let her go. And he's like, I'm not going to let you. Boom. I don't have time to deal with you. Let her go. It's cold.
Yeah.
For sure. But it was the one thing that, and in some way, part of me was like, well, I got to give it up to Joel. He's not even trying to defend himself. He knows there's nothing that he's going to say that's going to change this person's mind.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. It's just something that when she said it made me think about it more.
Sure.
Something that, as somebody who's played the game so many times, every time I get to that moment, I'm like, can't I just shoot him in the leg? But the game, the game makes you make that choice. It's kind of the point of the whole thing, is to make really uncomfortable choices. Your character is in it, and so are you, whether you like it or not. You can always turn it off and never play it again.
Sure. But no, they do play very well in the gray area here. Even with this whole final Abby Ellie face off as Joel's getting killed, it's like this is all messed up on all ways, and you could see where the only direction this is going to be now. You just killed Joel. Ellie is gonna take you all out, and we've already established that she's a total badass. So it's badasses versus trained soldiers. Man, I'm up for that adventure.
Yep. And we end with Ashley Johnson singing. That's her singing that song at the end, which is so beautiful. She's got the chops, man. She can sing and act and do voice work and play D&D. And I thought it was really fitting that she sang this song over the end, as everything is falling apart. They're off to, they're leaving for Seattle. Jackson's cleaning up its mess, which I'm sure is going to play a big part, at least in the beginning of the next episode, of rebuilding and letting Tommy, or letting what's going to happen. Because this is not a great time for anybody to be leaving to go get revenge.
Well, and I think that's the brilliant way about doing this big invasion, is it gives a reason why Tommy's going to be taken up, the town's going to be taken up, much like how the Fireflies couldn't jump in a vehicle and go right after Joel because there was time and he had the only vehicle and stuff. They got to clean up. There's lives, there's stuff like that. We can't just go off on a revenge. And that way, if it ends up being, Ellie and Dina, and then Tommy running up behind her point, it's going to be a small group, if anyone. They're not going to be able to just like send 3 patrols out and corner them up and we'll catch, if Jackson was fine, they'd take care of the problem, no problem. After this, no, you can't. There's things that has to happen. And this gives conflict for Tommy also, because he's got to protect his family, but his brother's just been killed.
Yeah, and like I said, like in the game, he's there when it happens. They've got him off to the side. He had to sit there and watch the whole damn thing. So, I mean, in the game, when you finally, like, when you hear Tommy talk about things, like, it's just. But in this, he's going to have that. But yeah, he's got it. Like in the game, he doesn't have a kid. He doesn't have as much to lose. He has Maria, but like the relationship between him and Maria always feels like in the game, like always one step away from a breakup.
Sure.
Because of the conflict that Joel always brings to things. But Tommy always being like there, like what he says to Ellie, like, you and my brother are the same person. I've been dealing with him my whole life, and now I've got you too. You know what I'm saying? Sorry.
Yeah, no. I think it's exciting because again, I'm not sure what changes they're going to do with cast and thing. And Dina's obviously going to try and be involved in this and not letting Ellie go. What's Tommy's conflict is? It's different when it's just a wife and you're like, sorry, sweetheart, I gotta do it for my brother. You know, you can get away with something like that. When you've got a kid and you're a leader of a town that has just suffered an attack and needs defenses and needs things like that, it's much harder to be able to be like, well, I gotta go. Well, the whole town needs you. If you wait, we'll send a whole bunch of people with you later on, you know. So it really adds to the conflict, which is something that they're doing a good job taking the first pass of the material on the game and now being able to do tweaks and special focuses on things.
And I can't wait to see where they're gonna expand in the next or the rest of the season and the rest of the story. I can't wait to see what they do with all of the rest of it because there's so many ways to go. And I like the way I think about it, like that third episode with the Bill and what was his friend's name? Bill and Frank?
Yes, Bill and Frank. Very good.
How that episode was unlike, it's the only episode with Bill in it, and Bill is like, we don't get to see any of Bill's past. Everything is present Bill. And I hope that we get stuff like that coming up, where they take concepts that, or concepts of characters in the game and completely flip it on its head in ways that I don't see coming, that anyone sees coming. With, again, what you said, what you brought up last episode was these are the people who made the game involved in this, and now they can sit with people who, like Druckmann and Craig are a great team. They proved it with the first season, and how Neil's there with the game. Craig plays the game. Craig studies the game. He sees all the different ways that he can make these improvements, and they have my full, I don't think that anything, I think every episode of this show is probably going to be a banger like Severance because of that kind of pairing. Like Offerman said in his award, winning his speech for winning for Last of Us, when he talked about when you have the writing there, when you have these kind of people making this kind of thing, like it's the easiest job in the world to do, and I can't wait to see what they're gonna do. And I don't know, do you have anything else? Because look, I could sit here and compare
sure,
and go down rabbit holes, and if I was a chud, I'd start complaining about all the way that Joel shouldn't have died. And even though you can't see it, it says consequences under my stupid little figure over here. Yeah. The consequences came home.
Yeah.
Pedro Pascal as Joel Miller outside of flashbacks has been taken off the board, and I'm glad that it's over. I'm glad that we've gotten to this episode. I'm glad that I was wrong, because every episode that would have gone on with this waiting would have been just making me go crazy. And so now we can really move forward with Ellie and Abby's story, where, again, Abby is so consumed. Where does her journey go now that she's gotten that thing done?
Oh, yeah.
How does she become an interesting character, or continue to be an interesting character? How does she evolve? Does she just stay with this? And then Ellie, who's found she had all this new hope. She had just made up with her father figure. She's a relationship starting. Now Jackson's been attacked, and all this horribleness has happened, and how the comparisons of Abby and Ellie are going to get stronger, but will Abby's story stay in the same lane as Ellie's? And that's what we're going to start seeing over the course of this season and next season. And I can't wait to see what they're going to do every single time. Do you have anything else?
No, I couldn't agree more. I'm excited to do that. And I think, you're going to see what does Abby do without that in front of her. And is Ellie going to be taken over by obsession the same way that Abby was? And how is Dina and Tommy going to play into that? You know, how are they going to be the question? Yeah, and I think those are going to be the interesting things to wrestle with on both ends as they're going through similar things, and how do they deal with them. And you're right. If anything, this show earned the respect and expectation to go with it, that they're not going to make any mistakes, that it's going to be an amazing, interesting thing each episode. And I, as always, I can't wait until next week.
Right.
But I got it.
And isn't it fun kind of doing it like right away?
No, this was nice. This was nice. My wife had to run out, so I had to do a quick watch, and then we could do this. And I'm about to go in and do a rewatch of the show right after this, and without trying to give anything away as it's all happening. But yeah, this is going to be a blast. Again, worth an instant rewatch.
Okay, well, don't forget, everybody that watches this, that we're gonna try to do these as quickly as possible going forward for this show. But on Tuesday, I'm pointing the wrong way as always.
I know it takes a while to get used to.
After we just finished Daredevil Born Again over on Darren Jakes' channel, D's Reviews, which you should go like, subscribe, all that jazz. We start talking about Andor this week. We've got 3 episodes to talk about every week for the next 4 weeks. So for big, meaty discussions about the best Star Wars thing pretty much out there in the last, since Rogue One?
Yeah, I think overall I would certainly say so.
Even if people that don't like Rogue One, there are parts of Rogue One that I think that everybody admits are pretty good.
Andor is Star Wars' Daredevil.
Yeah. So if you like all that, don't forget to come to D's Reviews and listen to both of us prattle on about Star Wars. Hopefully, even though it's like Empire stuff and it's the beginning of the rebellion and it's pretty dark, I don't think it can get as dark as this. And it definitely doesn't get as dark as the Daredevil finale with head crushing and shit like that.
No, we don't, but I'm hopeful for their expectations to really dive in, especially considering, and I'm sorry, art reflects current world circumstances, considering the comparatives they can do and when this was made and what was going on in the background, even though we weren't here yet, there's that expectation. I am really I'm really hopeful, and I have faith because of what they were able to accomplish in the first season. That they are not going to shy away from making the big statements and the big comparisons that are going to make this a show worth sucking down 3 episodes at a time and then going, oh my God, there's still a whole nother trilogy next week and then the week after that. So yeah, I'm real excited. All
right. So that's it, folks. Be here next week. Be over on his channel on Wednesdays.
Wednesdays, 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central.
All right. So this is me, Rob, from Smirking Gun. That's Darren Jakes from D's Reviews. And we'll see you guys on the next video. Bye. It's so all of a sudden like, see ya.
See ya. And we're out.
Ba 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 bum. Ba 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 bum. Ba 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 bum.